You're listening to The KYLO Show, the podcast where we talk about how to keep your love on no matter what and why whole healthy families are going to save the world. And it starts right now.
Hello and welcome to The KYLO Show. Well, we have some exciting guests with us.
We do.
We should just give an honorable mention to the fact that this is Mom's first time on The KYLO Show.
Are you kidding me?
We're
How'd that
getting
happen?
finally
Listen to
arrived.
episode because of that.
I know.
Woo.
Sheri Silk is
Yeah.
on The KYLO Show.
There we go. Watch out. You never know what I'm going to say.
I know.
It's
Do.
true. This is an uncontrollable situation.
I have stories.
So many stories. But we brought you all here because there's some fun things happening.
Drum roll. Come on, Ben.
I'm not.
There it is.
Left hand too.
Little known fact is Ben is a drummer.
Yes.
true.
Please don't ask me to drum. It's been
Yeah.
too long,
Yeah.
but I love it.
Wasn't it Akadaka? Who was it?
What?
What are we talking about?
No.
They had a drummer. AC/DC.
Yeah.
Akadaka.
No,
Oh,
it
these
was
are weird.
youth band.
Oh yes,
Yes.
I played in youth. I played for a long time,
Yeah.
and
Very
then I
good.
played for one person and found out I wasn't at that level anymore. I went to who?
And I got sat down for a decade.
Welcome
That
to
was
The
cute.
KYLO Show, guys.
Yeah.
This is today's podcast.
We should do drum roll again.
What's
Me
happening,
too.
Brittany?
Well, I brought all these wonderful people onto The KYLO Show because we are announcing something exciting.
Very.
I wrote a book.
Long awaited.
Wow.
Ta-da! I don't even know.
If you're listening,
It's like
you're
your
If you're
fourth
watching,
child.
you could see it.
Yeah,
But
it
if you're
looks
listening,
great. It's called Imperfect Parenting, Connection Over Perfection. And it comes out this Mother's Day.
So
May.
proud of you.
I think
Just saying, I'm just so proud of you.
Yes.
long awaited.
so cool.
Yes, it is. It's kind of crazy. It's a little intimidating to write a parenting book after like the parenting book was written.
Oof.
Yeah.
Care to Discipline by Dr. Dobson. What
No, I
book
don't
are you
think she's-
talking
I've
about?
never
I don't
read
think
that
she
one.
means
Yeah,
that one.
I meant your parenting book.
Oh,
But yeah, so we are excited to announce and have this new book join our bookstore and the Loving on Purpose community and family. It's called Imperfect Parenting because that's been probably my struggle more than anything and what I've learned. But I wanted to bring Ben. Obviously, he's the other side of this parenting journey I'm on.
imperfection. The other side of
The other side of
it.
imperfection.
Yeah.
You and I, we're imperfect together, baby.
Aren't we
Put us
all?
together, we made it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And my parents, they are
The source of this imperfection.
There is
theme.
no perfect parent. That's your point.
that is the point.
Yes.
Oh, hopefully
There's
you're in
no
for a
perfect.
ride because
We'll get
it should
through
be
this.
entertaining. But that was, my heart in having Mom on here is really just to add to the journey of parenting and you knowing where you come from and all of that and then what you choose to produce because you guys have a very different story than Ben and I do.
Yeah.
You chose differently, but you were given quite a bit different than what we had starting out. So, but yeah, there is no perfect parent, and there's no perfect human, and there's no perfect children.
And yet there's some sort of standard of perfection.
Yeah.
Like an expectation that you are going to figure it all out and you're going to do everything because you love these people. You're going to do everything right. And then you beat yourself up so bad when you mess it up and you watch yourself do it twice, 5 times. Like, gosh, why do I keep doing this?
Yeah.
And it's a mirage that you're going to get it all right. It's just, doctors and lawyers make giant money practicing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we parents are supposed to just out of the box get it right.
Yeah. I remember planning for a wedding just was such a big deal, and then we had you like a year later, 1 week after our
There
first
wasn't a whole
anniversary.
lot of planning that went into that.
And like all you really need is diapers and some blankets. There's just so much goes into these events in our life. But when you add a child, you have no idea what's going to be required of you. And there's really, you can plan, you can have the perfect nursery, you could have the perfect everything, and then they arrive. and you find yourself in school.
Definitely. School for sure.
The tests come first, and
Yeah.
then the lessons. Yeah.
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 All the learning lessons. What do you? I mean, I wrote Imperfect Parenting. That's my journey. That's also kind of what I've run into a lot with working with parents is this need for perfection. But what's something that you guys feel like you were struggling with or was imperfect? Something that was in your mind trying to do it right. Is there any moments that you remember of wading through that?
Marriage.
Lots of that.
I think
We were trying to do both.
Our big challenge was marriage. Really, like, okay, we have children. You know, we have a baby. We have 2 babies. We have 3 babies. But the thing that kind of we were working so hard on was the idea of how do we do this together forever. You know, and that kind of shifted our attention to the whole idea of connection. Like, we have got to figure out how to connect, stay connected, fight for connection, and then in turn that all translated into the value that we have for connection with our children. And here we are, umpteen years later.
Umpteen.
Well, we passed the teens.
30.
Yeah.
We passed the
He
teens.
is
We're like
30, almost 39.
We're sneaking up on a 40.
You're not there yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, I think your personal journey and your parenting journey are happening at the same time. So you're offering, nobody's out to ruin their kids. Like, I don't know one parent that goes, wow, you know what? I'd really like to mess up my kid or something. No one thinks that, but you are you at that given moment in your life. And so whatever you have going on, whether it's hard things, marriage, tools, anything, you know, just your learning curve, you're trying to give your child the very best version of you at that moment. And they're only going to get what you're capable of. And so the idea of, you know, you're the best parent for your kid. We know that you're that parent. God designed it. You're the best one. But you have to grow. Mm-hmm. You can't just say I'm stuck or this is hard and then just sit there. So I think, you know, your personal journey has to keep moving forward as you are a parent so that they keep getting the very best version of you. And for us, there was just so many obstacles, so many things that we had to deal with personally, our personal growth path, and we were on them separately. You know, we're individuals, so we had different issues, and we just had to just keep
Own it.
forging on, and there was people around us not making that. You know, like you started out saying, you made some choices, and we did. We made them and hunkered in and kept going. And some people give up because it is really hard, but you have to keep choosing to grow.
It's fortunate that your mother's so stubborn.
Yes,
I will not give
Danny is. I call him quietly defiant because he's really quiet about it, but you can see the heel marks drug in the dirt behind him. I'm much more loud when I'm
Well,
defiant.
we are both strong-willed children, and
You grew up.
and so we have
For survival reasons.
yeah. It really took some commitment, determination, fortitude, resilience, grit, you know, all the stuff to translate it into our equal commitment to being parents that are going to walk with our kids through thick and thin for the rest of our lives.
No. Mm-hmm. You know, you guys have such a marriage story that is in the heat of becoming parents as well.
Yeah.
We have a similar, it's not as intense. I think that's the goal of every next generation. It's a little bit more mild. It's a little bit more mild. But I mean, we had to learn how to fight for connection, to understand how important that goal was in our marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting here looking at this book cover, which is just exciting. It says Brittany Serpell on it.
It does.
It's pretty cool.
It doesn't say Brittany Silk. It says Brittany
But it's
Serpell.
a pretty, well,
That's you.
I just meant it's your name.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool that you named it in a book. But the thing I keep thinking about is theory is nice to have, and even universities are full of theory, but you have to go practice. And I think I got introduced to the Silk clan and early on, and these great ideas and things that I was like, that's who I am. That's what I want to live in. But it was a bunch of theory until I ran into a person named Brittany, and then Delaney.
Snack.
It's true.
And I think, as I was reading this title again, Imperfect Parenting, I was thinking about early days with Delaney. So we were trying to work it out, you and I, and then we had Delaney early on as well. So I had these two
Intense women.
deep lessons happening at the same time. Two intense women.
I know your pain.
Right? So, but I was thinking about, I'm in the house of the people who wrote the book on parenting, and I'm meant to be perfect in front of them because they're telling the world how to parent well, and I had to go figure that thing out because I think my anxiety was always so jacked up that I have to do it right or well or the way they said or something, and so just the journey you talk about, I had to go on a journey of there's no expectation that anyone's putting on me. There's just this thing that I keep putting on myself that I think is there.
Yeah.
So it's just a different part of the journey, which I think it brings me to the point of, I think we're often so concerned about what people think, especially as parents.
Oh, yeah.
Even as spouses, we're so concerned about what other people are going to say or think or believe that we actually stop or create a wrong direction fight. So.
And it tells us a little bit about how we look at other parents, because we look at other parents like, would you do something about that child? Somebody needs to control that kid right there. There is to the degree that I am projecting that, I'm also absorbing that.
Right.
So there's there's an empathy, especially once you have adult children. Once you get to adult children, you have this brand new empathy for all parents. You're like,
We're almost there.
yeah, it's
Almost
coming.
there.
It's coming. There is a reality check that hits you as parents of adult children. Yeah. That is, people say, "Oh, toddlers are so hard." I was like,
Like,
I'd take a
buckle
toddler in a second. You wait. You just wait. And this is, part of the maturing of love.
Yeah.
Like it's, how do we protect this connection with no power?
Yeah.
You can't pick them up. You can't, you can't turn the Wi-Fi off. None of that stuff matters. You have zero power except in the value that the both of you hold for the relationship.
Yeah.
And the art and dance of that through thick and thin is really what you're working as a parent to achieve long into your twilight years.
I know that looking back at baby Delaney, who's almost 18, and all that she gave us in the early years, and then we had Adeline, who was nothing. She just
She came on strong though.
she did once she decided to. She did come on strong.
Yeah.
And I think the hard part in those early years of parenting is, like you said, toddlers. Everyone that's living in the toddler years, they're just trying to survive them. And then you get to middle or elementary age, and there's different things there. I'm in middle school and high school, and we haven't faced adult yet. But I do think that one thing I'm so grateful you guys gave me, which I think Ben got to reap the benefits of, was the sooner that we could figure out the value of connection, the more successful we're going to be as a family. And, we had to figure that out in marriage, which Ben had to learn how to, I think you phrased it as tame the dragon or confront the dragon. So
A T-Rex, I've heard a T-Rex used.
yeah,
as
I'm pretty
my
sure I was just a
description.
dragon.
I
So,
remember that drive, that conversation.
and, which was all very true, because as soon as Ben could confront me, I felt safe, which is very odd.
You should say that again.
to remind you.
Not just for me.
As soon as
revelation
Ben
there.
could confront
That's
me,
good to hear again.
I did feel safe. We just told this to a young marriage group that we're leading to all these young couples is if you're married to a strong woman, she needs to feel safe. And if you are passive, she does not feel safe. And so much of that in building this little family. I just remember Delaney as a newborn and feeling out of control of I've never done anything like this. I'm babysit kids all the time. Everyone wants my advice and as far as how to pick a babysitter or what to do in babysitting. I'm like, I'm so confident. Oh my gosh, I'm either going to ruin this child's life or I'm going to lose my mind. That's how this feels. But again, when Ben showed up, I felt safe. We had the same goal of connection. Everything starts changing dramatically. And it just feels like that's a piece that I want parents to understand is, connection is going to be the sweet spot for success in your marriage if you find that, and then also with your kids, because that's the place where we gain influence is when we feel connected. And it's often just overlooked because I'm drowning in the sea of choices.
I think the other side of it is, we had a different context for our parenting. Mm-hmm. We had a different society.
Yeah. We
had a different culture. We were coming out of some stuff, so we still smelled like smoke for a long time, coming out of a much of what we learned. We spent unlearning and then digging around for tools and building a new toolbox. That burned up a lot of time. So we spent a lot of time in that phase of parenting.
Yeah.
Unlearn, relearn, retool. Mm-hmm. That was a chunk of.
Yeah, it's like learning a new language, in a way. I mean, we even Loving Our Kids on Purpose tools and phrases and all that stuff. We didn't just pick that up. It was like even using the term, valuing connection was what? We're connected.
Mm-hmm. In case people don't know what when you refer to coming out of the smoke or still smelling like smoke, what is it that you came from that for anyone that doesn't know this?
Well, if you haven't heard this story, this is, sitting here, our parents and Sheri's stepfather, those 5 people represent 15 marriages. Yeah. Each of them was married 3 times. So there's children, sprayed throughout that.
Yes.
In various relationship dynamics. Mm-hmm. And those are just the people that our folks married. That doesn't include the people that lived in our homes and or, were a significant part of our lives than no longer. Mm-hmm. So, that'll jack a guy up. That'll mess with your expectation of what things are supposed to look like in a family.
Yeah. We talked about, you guys talked about confronting, and Danny had to learn and grow in that area of confronting me. But when that happened, I grew up in a unhealthy, confrontive family, yelling, screaming, six brothers, Oh, so when Danny would confront me, I'd be like, I got this. This game on. Let's go. Let's rumble.
I know how to play this
game.
I
know how to make this worse.
I know how to really hurt you really bad with my words. I grew up, this is old school for me. But so we both had different lessons to learn from. It wasn't just, we grew up in broken homes and all of that, but it was also, our personality types and the dysfunction of certain parts of that personality, and then also survival skills. How did I was aggressive, that was survival for me, and his was more of a passive retreat, kind of become a small target. Mm-hmm. Mine was like come out with a
T-Rex.
A weapon or something, and then birth order. He's the oldest, I'm the youngest. So all those things, even we use things like Enneagram and all that stuff nowadays, strength finders, DISC. Those are tools to help take a look at yourself. And those are important things to do. They're not black and white. They're facets of a personality. But I think that has a lot to do with it too. We were, I had my stepdad was my stepdad since I was 6. So he raised me, and because I had a stepdad at 6 tells you that I was abandoned pretty much as a young, like I never really was allowed to see my dad starting at age 1. So I have no memory of living with my real father. So there's just all these dynamics that are rolling into our relationship, and then we had a baby right away. So we were.
You wanted me to have a front row seat too.
Honestly, it was the Lord that you were with us so soon, because we were believers. I was just talking about this morning with someone, but we had radical transformation when we got saved. It was a radical transformation. Like, I once was darkness, I am now light. And so we were doing that, and we had a baby, so we had this value of we're not getting a divorce. Where I grew up with my parents screaming every night, let's get a divorce. In fact, us kids were cheering them on because we were so sick of the fighting and the violence in the home and all that stuff. But we never said that. We didn't ever do that. We thought it probably, and we felt very stuck and wondered how we were going to ever make it through. But we didn't play with that. It was like a little black widow spider that we didn't take out of the box and play with, because we knew that's not what we wanted. But it was really hard. But we chose it over and over and over and over until we got out of the woods. Yeah.
Yep. It was, and we had amazing people modeling what it looked like.
That's true.
We had an example of that we did not have in our families. We couldn't look in our families and go, that's what I want right there.
Yeah.
It was the opposite. It was like, okay, how do I not do that? How do I not do that? How do I not do that? So to not do something for very long becomes your target.
Yeah.
It becomes your example. And you end up doing that. That's what unforgiveness is all about, is I'm never going to do that. I'll never be like them. I'll never do that to my kids. I'll never to say those things. And then you end up doing exactly that because you didn't replace it with, this is what I'm going to do. And we had just wonderful examples around us from the time we got saved. We had just covenant people all around us. That was the vast majority. There were a few folks that, called it quits and, went in a different direction. But the culture of what we came into was people that are going to be married for 40, 50, 60 years. You're like, okay, my grandparents were married for 54 years, but I didn't live around them. And they were kind of mythical people in my life. They were perfect parents. They were the perfect people that, I loved them, and they were an example, but it was kind of like watching TV, kind of an example. But our Mountain Chapel,
let's take it way back.
Weaverville.
It was actually called Calvary Chapel. It was in the Assemblies of God Church, but it was called Calvary Chapel. That group imprinted us, and so though we were geese, we thought we were ducks.
I think they were great examples. I wouldn't say that. I mean, that was one obvious benefit of that covenant relationship. But they didn't teach us the tools and the skills, because they were modeling it, but they didn't sit down and go, don't do this, do this, because they were raised differently, and they were living out their legacy of peace in the home. But so we had to go get it, is my point. Yeah.
I know that you just referenced kind of the spiritual leaders in your life once you guys got saved. I think a lot of families that want to do something better than what they had before have a hard time remembering that they're still good that their parents did give them,
Yeah.
And I've heard both of you talk about the work ethic that both your parents instilled in you just by, their hard work and just showing up and, all of that they gave there. And really they had massive love for you, but they had such dysfunction and not knowing the Lord,
Yeah.
and that's, but I think about, I'm really grateful that they instilled hard work in you because I feel it's part of your stubbornness, maybe, is your ability to we're going to keep working on this. So thanks, grandparents, for that. And, but it is it's a wild thing because people ask me all the time, what's it like being the daughter to Danny Silk? And I always say, he's not as loud as you think he is. He's actually really quiet. But, one of the things I was thinking about that you guys gave me, which you'll have to talk about your parents because I wasn't there.
True.
This is the good news.
Yeah.
It's a good news that you have brother
Yeah.
and sister now.
That's a whole different podcast.
But I think, you said earlier it took some time for you guys to figure it out, which you always say different years. One says 12, the other says 15 or something like
Yeah.
that. You do have. So I was in the throes of all of, your worst days. But I remember them probably more than the boys do. But I know your better days even louder because there's something to compare it to, I think, where I don't know that the boys remember it like that. But I just think the priority of our family is really important, and the willingness to hear that when we needed to share it. Like, I think that was always a safe enough space to go and say, I'm hurt or I'm sad or I'm scared. Maybe it was watching you guys practice figuring out how to do that between the two of you that finally made it to where I feel like I was able to do that growing up. And, the value for growth, I think, is another huge thing that has been instilled in my life, is that searching for how do you keep growing and how do you keep improving yourself. We are not ever going to be perfect, but the goal is to continually be growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
The connection over perfection.
yeah.
Like our toolbox started getting filled up when, in essence, we got involved in a ministry. Ramy Vista was a ministry that put a couple of 25-year-olds in care of teenage juvenile delinquents. You're like,
Sounds like
who
a
were
really
they
good
thinking?
plan.
came up with this idea?
What were they thinking?
But we knew chaos. We knew dysfunction. We so understood these kids. We're like, oh yeah, we get you. But we didn't have tools, and so we had either jump into dysfunction or figure this out. So that really was kind of the rocket fuel to us getting out of that. I started going to school, started pursuing a degree in social work, and so it wasn't too long before I was doing parent training, foster parent training, love and logic parenting, which a whole bunch of loving our kids on purpose stuff was love and logic. But the emphasis on the connection and introducing the kingdom, like this is how our Father leads us. That was a target. That was like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Instead of this is what we're not gonna do, this is what we're gonna do. And when Mom says that, the people that were spiritual leaders to us, they were really setting a standard, but they did not have the dynamic that we had or the history that we had. And they didn't need they didn't need the impact wrench to get those nuts off. We were like, they could use a ratchet. We're like, we really, we had some, we had to get the big power tools, and it really strengthened us.
Yeah.
Hey, Brittany here. Yes, you normally hear me on the KYLO Show, but I am interrupting the KYLO Show right now to tell you about my book, Imperfect Parenting, Connection Over Perfection, is coming out Mother's Day. So check that out. But before that, I've got a conference happening. I know, at the beginning of May. May's going to be great. So if you want to come to the conference with all of my friends, Seth Dahl, Lauren and Jason Valentin, Danny Silk, all these wonderful people are coming. Make sure you go to imperfectparenting.co to find out the details, and hopefully I see you there.
To answer your question about my parents, and I think the two things I've been thinking about knowing this question's coming is I think my parents modeled sacrifice really well. I was thinking about my sister did gymnastics. She probably almost went to the Olympics because my mother just was relentless in showing up for her. I was really good at basketball when I was younger.
Like drumming?
Like drumming. Thanks, Sheri.
Oh, Ben, you got an arrow.
You're a
You got an
great
arrow
drummer
sticking out
now.
right here.
Oh, good. Thanks. See, I'm comparing myself.
Oh,
I'm an imperfect drummer. But just there was those moments, and then just watching her in the house, and even my dad, and those memories as a young kid. He would leave at 3 a.m. to catch a train to get to the city to go to work, and he just had this sacrificial love for us that showed up in that way. So it was that piece that I probably didn't understand as a child very much, but looking back, going they were giving so much, and just that sacrificial example. It's like, okay, that's partly what love looks like. There's gaps in there, and there's tools I didn't understand. The connection language I got when I got here. But I think the other piece is they taught me how to keep God the source.
Yeah.
And I've gone on a journey. I've had good days and bad days, but that's been kind of the thing that stuck with me my whole life. I think I've always said I've loved the church, and I love being involved in the church and serving. And I was telling someone the other day, I remember my first time preaching was 14 years old, and it was John 3:16, and I did it at youth, and the pastor said, "Come do it on Sunday night." And but I just love being around that because my parents modeled this so well. I get up in the morning, and they're both sitting in that bed reading the Bible, and there's just this thing that they helped develop inside of me that I just cannot shake, nor do I want to. Yeah. But I think it's those things to me I think about that I want my kids to see in us as well. And then you add all this stuff that I've learned meeting you people that's so valuable and so helpful.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I've seen your when we've been over there, your mom, with her cup of tea in the morning, and her Bible, and your dad with his oatmeal and his Bible, and that. So I've seen that as coming into the family and sacrifice. You guys coming over here when you came to America, experienced School of Ministry from Bethel, went back and told them about it, and then they said, "Let's all do it." Yeah. So again, they just have figured out how do we sacrifice, the conveniences of our life for what we believe is God's saying or has favor on. So that is very true. It's interesting, I don't think there's very many parents that have adult children that are sitting down talking about, okay, what did you give us that we are recreating, wanting to recreate, or don't want to recreate? Because I think that's you two are leaders for families all over the world. And the idea that I might not want to do it exactly how I was brought up is baffling to people. I'm like, no, we didn't start out like this, guys. You got to realize they didn't start out what you're seeing right now. They had to go on a road just as much as we do. And I think for our kids, I'm really grateful because, Mom, you and I had a harder struggle in my early teen years or younger years because I was Spitfire, as are you. And your learning journey and my just being a child, disrespectful, just clashed like crazy. And, I've been pretty aware of that in my upbringing or in my parenting of our girls. Like, okay, how do I not do that one again? And I think that there's definitely, I don't have as much Spitfire girls as I probably was. So that's, yeah, it's cheating right there. But, I was with the middle one and I was thinking, I'm really curious as to if you're gonna be more like me as we get older, because you are so much fun right now. I'm having so much fun with you. Oh, hold thy tongue, Brittany. Don't say anything. But I think back to, okay, I have grown because of my parents.
Yeah.
So I get to bring something different to this dynamic. And I'm really grateful for it. And I know that my girls and our son will do the same. But it is interesting to think about, okay, what are we learning from? And the interesting part of all of this is that we're all in the same house.
Yes.
So you guys are watching if it's working or not, if we're improving our skills or not. So
Yeah, not everyone knows that, I guess, but we all live in a very big house. And it used to be, we used to travel so much
I say
that
too.
when we first started all living together, Danny and I were on the road 150, 160.
if not more.
More, me, and then him more on the road a year. So
they thought it was their house.
they thought it is their house.
Tricked
But the point is that we, it was silly to have 2 mortgages, and we all pulled together, and then we are still choosing to do that. But yeah, I mean,
It was like we
got-
visited.
You
We come over to
visited.
visit for a few months at a time.
yeah,
It's true.
I mean,
Christmas and Easter.
it's fun to watch you and your kids.
Yeah,
and,
we are super impressed. Super impressed.
I mean, even I'm sure your sisters and Brittany's brothers are like, I said, because you're the only grandchild producers for us. And the boys are like, we could really screw that up. Like, Brittany they have like the perfect kids. And we had kids, we could really mess that up. Taylor, if you're listening, Levi. But I said, it's not a comparison. You'd be you and all that. But
All of that.
you both do well. And I remember when we first met Ben, even, your parents are good people, and we knew that right away. So when you guys were getting married super, super young, that was one of the things we actually saw as a super plus, that your parents were good, solid Christian people that were going to stay close and work it out, and definitely a benefit.
So that's why you said yes to.
It's one of the
18 and
reasons.
19.
It's the character of your parents.
I don't think we, control's an illusion when your child's 18 and 19, but yes, that was definitely
Sure.
important to us.
That's great.
And loved it.
and we have the first-hand experiential observation with you guys. So it's not like we are biased opinionators here. We're like, we experience, we share air. I mean, with all 5 of you, and it's absolutely delightful. I mean, I don't know any kids like these. Really, you weren't kids like this. We didn't raise kids like this. So you guys are doing such a wonderful job, which gives you the authority to write a book like this. It's full of stories. It's full of
Yeah.
That's right.
the application of your toolbox, but it's really so much more about the culture, this beautiful culture that you've created in your family. We always, we definitely are not the parents.
Yep.
We are the grandparents, which
You are.
is kind of like
I have to remind you.
there's a whole, I call them our kids.
they're not
Well,
your
our kids, because I want some dang credit over here is what I want. That's what I'm
They're not
thinking.
your kid.
But we there's the catcher and there's the umpire and then there's the backstop. And it's like, okay, we're the backstop. If the ball gets past all y'all, we end up like, okay, enough. If me and Papa ever say enough, that ball stops. We pulled it out a couple times, but for the most part, we just watch you guys play the game.
I was telling Brittany on the drive here today. I have this memory of sitting down with all four of my grandparents. Now 3 of them have passed away and gone to heaven, but it was just me and them in a living room one day, and I got to hear their stories, and it was just wild. And that I'll tell it one day longer. But the thing that I was thinking about as you're talking is the legacy I got to hear and the things they did that set up us grandkids for where we are today was just so valuable. Mm-hmm. And so just sitting just listening to both of you talk, I'm thinking that there's experiences that our children are having because of what Danny and Sheri have done and Rob and Linda Serpell. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just so valuable and so powerful that the backstop's there, right? Because you've prepared the field. So on behalf of the book, thank you.
Yeah. I think about, Ben comes from a family of generations of Christians, mm-hmm. which is not the case in our house. You guys are the first generation to really invite the Lord into this process of marriage, covenant, family. And it's just a funny thing also is, I married internationally, which is fairly rare. And, your family grew up with such a heart for missions. Mm-hmm. And we travel, and you guys have traveled internationally. So I look at my kids and go, you guys are a rare little breed you've been to Australia multiple times, and you've had chocolates from all over the place. Your favorite is, the ones that come from Norway or Sweden, and it's just an amazing thing, like been saying, that our kids are been exposed to is the thing of legacy and just the value that every family has legacy, and to even look and search for your legacy, like what is it that you have that your family's representing, and what is it that God has gifted you, and is connection in that legacy in one way or another, and just even searching for it and clinging to it, saying, okay, maybe it didn't look how I wanted it to look, but God's design for family has always been the priority, and he's laced in every crazy, chaotic situation, and connection is in there. So what is the legacy that you have as your own family? Mm-hmm. So
it's awesome.
Not being afraid to look at it. Mm-hmm. I love that, like you said, because sometimes we think if we don't look at it, it's not there. That's a lie, just saying. And so being able to look at your family and figure out what is the good and what is hard and what you want to change is an excellent way to create what you want, mm-hmm. By not being afraid to look at it. So it's just vulnerable. It's so vulnerable. And even we're talking about connection. Having connection as a goal means vulnerability is part of your everyday life. Being able to take what you're feeling inside and share it on the outside so another person has a clue. That is a learned skill. And it doesn't ever really get easy. Mm-hmm. It's like the more heated the problem, the more vulnerable you feel talking about it. But if you want to live in a state of connection, you have to be vulnerable and do the work.
Yeah.
So
we were sitting down at a table with our kids, I don't know, their school overseers or some, their leaders in their school that they're at. And Delaney observed this thing that we had when we went to an event. And I think the heart and goal of the exercise was to produce connection for the families. But the way it was executed, don't think that translated. And it was really, really fun to talking about legacy, to watch her be able to articulate what she knows the heart was of this person and what the goal was and where it fell short, and even try and help give solutions to how to produce connection in families. And it's just really fun to look at, what you guys have given us, what Rob and Linda have given Ben, and what we've chosen to protect and, rebuild our Legos with the Legos that we had. That's kind of what it feels like. We've got this tub of Legos.
You do have a lot of Legos.
We
at the
have a lot
house.
of Legos at our house.
Figuratively and
It's an inheritance.
Clearly.
But to say that, to see it showing up, that our nearly 18-year-old senior in high school saying, I know the heart is for families to have connection. What if it looked like this? Mm-hmm. What if you said it like this, to her peers? And it's just a beautiful fruit of when you make something a priority in your house and you put attention to it and you're not led by fear, but you're led by love, the fruit starts to show up. It was fun to watch.
Imperfect parenting.
Imperfect parenting. Yeah. Guys, it really happened. Mm-hmm. It's kind of fun. It's very fun. It's also, oh my gosh, I'm so nervous at the same time. All right. Well, we are going to talk a lot more about this in the episodes coming up with different people and maybe a few more of the same people. But I'm excited. So thanks for joining us on the KYLO Show. And we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Never miss an episode of The KYLO Show by subscribing to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch us on the Loving on Purpose YouTube channel. Don't forget to submit your questions and testimonies to thekyloshow.com. The KYLO Show is produced by Ali Armerding, co-produced by Ashley Beck and Anna Hill, sound engineered and edited by Taylor Silk, and show promoter Christian Zamora. Don't forget, whole healthy families gonna save the world.